Hello and welcome. If you're joining me here early, trying to do a microphone check. So, can anybody out there just give me a thumbs up in the YouTube chat or the Facebook chat or even on X, formerly known as Twitter? Can you hear me? Do I get a thumbs up? Anybody hear me? Let's go to the X profile. Let's see if anybody can hear me. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think people hear me. Let's see here. Testing, testing, testing. All right. I see Phil Hull. Tommy Maxwell may be in the house. Hope you enjoyed your game this weekend in Nash Vegas. Okay, just looking for someone that can confirm that they can hear me. Smoke signal, yell real loud, a thumbs up, anything in the okay, Jaden, that a boy. There you go. Jaden. Is that a tally or a tail? Okay, I see the two thumbs up. So welcome aboard. It is almost 8 p.m. here on the East Coast. I have the Vanderbilt Louisville game. I have the St. Paul Saints versus the Buffalo Bison. Baseball season at its finest. So we're going to talk. Keith, there you go. That a boy. Brad, thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate you. Keith, thank you very much. And Jaden, I appreciate you very, very much. Okay, let's get the formalities out of the way. First and foremost, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. Really did a lot of digging today. We're not going to go talking about hitting or pitching or any of that other stuff. Tonight is about high school athletes, parents of high school athletes, whether that's freshmen or whether that's a senior and you're getting ready to graduate. Congratulations. But I wanted to talk to, some attorneys who are in this space, some coaches who are dealing with this, and what it all means. And I've boiled it down to three main points. Again, these Tuesday discussions are live Q&As. Today is May 6th. So if you find yourself watching in the future, you will know that Vanderbilt is playing Louisville. Then they were winning 1-0, and the Bison of Buffalo are in St. Paul playing the St. Paul Saints. But today we are going to talk recruiting, and we're going to talk about college athletics. And I really want parents to understand that I'm not going to be regurgitating, old, kind of worn out kind of messages. I am going to talk about what the effects are and what you can be doing as parents. Now, first and foremost, really want to get parents and athletes to understand. I am greatly appreciative of all of those that take the time to call me, text me, email me. Today I spoke with a couple of high school coaches helping their athletes, talk to some parents who are preparing to graduate and go on to the postgraduate realm, talk to parents of postgrad actual graduates this year that are going on to college. This is a very, very busy time. And I appreciate and I recognize it's a very emotional time. And so I want parents and athletes to understand the membership dynamic of the YouTube channel. Can't stress this enough. I really believe strongly in it. People that have watched the courses, I've had about 10 or 20 people that have watched the courses that are age specific. They love them. And those are all available to members. Also, you're getting copies of the books, the ebooks. You're getting access to the Coach's Corner content, which now has softball. We talked to Kevin Griffin of Belhaven, who's currently in the Division III regionals. We talked to Sherry Nadine of Collegiate Sports Advocate. And she is basically my twin with regard to the female athletics and also does some baseball. But I want to encourage you, $20 a month for continuing access to information such as this, but on obviously a much deeper level. So I wanted to make sure we got that out there. Also, please, if you're watching tonight and you're watching from whether it be Facebook or X or and if you are on YouTube, hit that like button, engage with the video. The more engagement, the more YouTube is going to push the content out. And I am really, we are making a concerted effort at Baseball Blue Book, also Softball Blue Book, to allow more rounded content. And so therefore tonight's information really is all athletics, but obviously we focus more attention on baseball and softball. So let's talk about a little bit about where we are with regard to the settlement. We are currently on pause. And as of, I believe, tomorrow, Judge Wilkin, who is the presiding judge on this case with the NCAA, the settlement with regard to the payment of athletes to as far back as retroactive to 2016. And that is a $2.8 billion, $2.8 billion judgment award that will be paid from 2016 in through 2024 on all athletes that participated at the NCAA Division I level. And then the second determination is Judge Wilkin is really pushing for both sides to not hurt the current student athletes. That would include those athletes that are high school graduates in the 2025 class that have signed a letter of intent. Bear in mind, the letter of intent is going away once this settlement is agreed upon, all parties and obviously the judge. But the judge does not want immediate cut of approximately 20,000 some odd athletes across all Division I sports, and is trying to get both sides to either grandfather or create some sort of a progression-based implementation of the hard roster limits and numbers. And lastly, there is the Title IX implications, or what I'm going to refer to Title IX and Olympic sports, kind of lumping them in. And so Title IX obviously addresses the evenness of male scholarship athletes and female scholarship athletes. What throws that number out the window is football, because there's no comparable women's sport that is making up now under the new limit of 105 roster spots. So, schools have to consider, where are we going to get the funding for the 105 scholarships to match and replicate football. So let's start with, if you're the parent of a 2025 or 2026 high school athlete, let's start there. And I want parents to begin to understand you have been lied to. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a mean way. I say that because the rug has been pulled out from underneath you, because for well over the last, say, 4 decades, we talk about athletes and parents and choosing schools and finding the right fit, trusting the process. Well, the days of you choosing a school are pretty much over. The schools, and I'm going across all NCAA and NAIA and even into the JUCO world, are now choosing your athlete. Those schools are going to choose who they recruit and who they want more than you as parents and athletes. And so when I say this really is the number one bullet point that I want parents and student athletes to begin to understand. You now need advocates. Sherry does it on the softball and female sports. You need advocates. You need people that are presenting when your athletes are prepared to be presented. And you need to be able to be versatile. And you need to be proactive. And yes, I love when I put stuff out on social media and they'll say things like, oh, college camps are a money grab and college coaches are just out here trying to make money. Okay. That's been true for the last 20 years with regard to these tournaments and showcases. We can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, schools that are conducting these camps or clinics, it's a way for them to be introduced to your student athlete, not only as an athlete, but as a person. What type of social skills, what type of, teammate are they? How do they interact with parents or family? How do they interact with people that are, campers and, seeing the campus for the first time? There's a lot more to the camp dynamic than the cost of the camp. If we are to understand point one, you're not choosing where you want to go to school. Schools are going to choose who they want, who they need. And that is topic number one. For, I would say, let's call it the last 20 years, we've been led to believe, and I'm not picking on travel athletics, that's not my point. Preface what I'm about to say. You've been led to believe that you can compare yourself to other athletes that have come before you, their processes. You are able to gauge your student athlete's ability based on athletes that are already committed to other schools. And I think my athlete is as good, if not better. Well, those days are gone, because your high school athletes are not competing with their age groups or year younger, year older. They're competing with older athletes. Women's sports, men's sports, any sport, every sport. And when we consider that once this settlement is agreed upon by Judge Wilkin and the parties, approximately 20,000 roster spots are going to be eliminated across all sports. And as it pertains to baseball, if we just take the number 40, and trust me, there's more than 40 at a lot of the schools at the Division I level, but let's just take 40 times 300 minus 6, that's 1,800. So this is a bigger puzzle than we're led to believe, because let's say there's red shirts or there's injured athletes. And let's say the number is closer to 8 to 10 times 300. Well, right out of the gate, we're going to add 3,000 approximate students. And all this creates fallbacks into the other divisions and other entities such as the NAIA. So, one, schools are going to be highly selective across all levels of college athletics. You must understand now, part of the bullet point of number one is that within the settlement is going to be 5 years of eligibility. That's pretty much, I think, a foregone conclusion. All the coaches will agree. Now, that doesn't mean you can go to JUCO, grab 2 years, and then you get 5 years at the NCAA. No. You get 5 years of athletic eligibility. Whether you take 2 at a JUCO, take 2 at a Division III, take 2 at a Division II, we're going to meet you in the middle, and we're going to say 5 years of eligibility, which means that college athletics at all levels are going to get older, stronger, better, and you have to find your entry point into college athletics. So when I say you've been lied to, we as parents need to understand this world is very, very different. Nobody's trying to be deceitful. Nobody's trying to be greedy. These coaches, and I love some of the comments that the coaches are over recruiting, or the coaches are, poaching, or what. Coaches coach baseball. They are hired to create winning programs, and winning programs are not about the development of a 17-year-old and waiting until he's 20. Winning programs are a roster evaluation in the fall, a roster evaluation in the early spring, and then upon the completion of a college season, there is a meeting amongst the college coaches within the program, and then they have exit meetings. And at that exit meetings, big boys are sat down and they are told where they are with relation to next year's roster. A lot of coaches are going to be very cautious about who they send out to college summer baseball. A lot of coaches are going to be slowing their recruiting processes down because they can, and that's the way it should be. They're going to allow players to mature mentally, physically, and be on par at least with the 20 to 21-year-olds. And I think it's important for parents to understand This is not a trend that is going to come to an end over the next few years. This is the future. This is the way it is going to be. Um, I can tell you Division III baseball, I don't know if any of the parents, again, Division III NCAA, for the most part, for the majority, is in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, down through Virginia and up through New England, Southern Maine, Salve Regina, Babson, Wheaton, uh, Keene State. I could rattle off a whole bunch of schools. And I'm doing interviews with Division III coaches, and, they're always available on the channel. But to a man, every Division III coach, NCAA Division III coach, is talking about the athletes that they're ultimately sending up, for lack of a better term, to Division I. So I want parents to understand the point of entry now is you have 5 years. So you may do your first 2 or 3, and you may end up moving around. I'm not an advocate of that. I think what we're missing, if I can digress for 1 second, we're really missing on the total college experience because we're so baseball laser focused or sport focused. We're missing out on, the community, the camaraderie, the locker room, the relationships. I can attest, I have athletes that I coached in 2001 and 2002, and we're in, 23 some odd years later, and I still have dialogue with these young men that are now dads and husbands, and they'll talk to their teammates from 20 years ago. They have get-togethers, and we're missing out on that point. And we're also, if you watched Butch Thompson of Auburn, and oh, by the way, Auburn is playing great baseball right now. But Butch made a very poignant point when he said that he really misses the days of the boys that would grow up together. The freshmen that would grow up for 4 or 5 years alongside of brothers is ultimately what they became. That aspect of college athletics is really taking a beating because we're all thinking about portal. And when it comes to name, image, and likeness, I understand. But for the vast majority of college athletes, there will not be a professional signing bonus. There will not be big name, image, and likeness money. And so we're so busy pushing adulthood when children are young. We're trying to rid them of a childhood and enjoying growing up and doing other things over and above just a baseball or just an athlete. And then we rush when they're in high school and we start thinking about college when they're still trying to enjoy getting their license, going to a prom. And then you get to college and we want to talk about, well, am I better than this school? Should I begin to look? And we start bouncing around. And before we know it, we're 23 or 24 and we're on the outside looking in. And what are we looking back on? So I digress there as a hopeless romantic of college athletics. Number 2, I want parents to begin to understand the need for you as a family. And I'm going to sound like a broken box here, but versatility is as meaningful and as important as physicality. I talk to a lot of college coaches, and I don't say that to be a braggart. I say that because I try to be as informed as I can. And oh, by the way, I get a lot of calls from coaches saying, "Coach, I'm looking for a left-hand hitting catcher. I'm looking for someone that can be a middle infielder and in a pinch can catch. I'm looking for a guy that can give me length in the bullpen." These coaches are looking to fill gaps that would allow their team to go to another level. And so when I say this to parents, versatility, physicality. It used to be a luxury. It used to be we'd go out, we'd worry about how many games we were playing, what tournaments we were playing in. And I can tell you almost to a coach, the days of what team they play for in the summer isn't as important as what type of routine do they have. What type of are they? Is this a someone that is focusing on foot speed? Are they addressing the strength during the course of the season? Are they working on deficiencies in the off season? They're asking a little bit deeper questions. They're not really asking about, can this athlete play at my level? Let's see. I just want to get to the questions, and I want to say thank you to those of you that are sending in questions. In the current environment, what does it look like for an athlete that you're helping? Are coaches interested in the players, or are they not even considering this until court hearing is finished? What about the concept of leveraging and trading your athletic? Okay, first one, Axe. I don't know the person's name, but I do want to get to this. Coaches, I wouldn't say they're on pause until the hearing is settled. I think all coaches are moving forward in their mind with a 34-man roster, and the vast majority of coaches are thrilled. As much as you think they might be disappointed, they're thrilled. First of all, a 34-man roster and schools can offer up to 34 scholarships. I don't believe the vast majority of schools will. And in fact, I want to reemphasize a point that I made last week. In 2027, you can bookmark it here. We will have a professional division and a college division. And the professional division will be the big boy schools, of the SEC and those types of schools that have big athletic budgets and are going to pay all of their athletes and are going to have the full scholarships. And they'll compete as a group on one side, and then you'll have the college division. And they may or may not go up from 11.7 from a baseball perspective. And they may go to 15 or they may go to 20. But the 34-man roster is where versatility comes in. Let's say you have a 40-man roster and 4 of your 6 players that you're cutting or don't have room for are pitchers. That's 1,200 pitchers that will be spread throughout all of college baseball. Now, the vast majority will end up at, hopefully, they hope that they end up at a Division I school, but they may end up at a Division II school, or if they're into their academics, then they're going to definitely end up at some of the higher level Division III schools. And so what I want parents to understand is that 34-man roster is very good for parents. It's very good for athletes. This is a very good thing because now you don't have to worry about biding your time or waiting, because those 34 men that take and wear a uniform, they're going to be given every opportunity to participate during the course of a year. You can just think of weekend pitching staffs, 9 innings, 56 games. If you're a pitcher, you're going to get opportunity. So understand that. Next, so coaches are slow. They will move slowly, especially this end of May, this month, in June. And once the finalization, which most assume will be in July, then we'll start to see the recruiting really be aggressive, particularly in the portal, then the JUCO, and then through the high school ranks. The high school ranks, in order to play Division I baseball at both the NAIA level and the NCAA level, as a high school graduate, you're going to have to be extremely talented. You're going to have to be that tier 1 fringe draft prospect. Scouts know who you are. College coaches know who you are. You have a now or present skill set with a projectable tool or two in your bag to be able to develop. The tier 2 and the tier 3 athletes that I alluded to a week or two ago, they're going to be at that JUCO Division III level, the NAIA Division II level. But my main point of telling you all this is schools are going to choose who they want and who they need. It's not going to be the other way around. You may want to go to a certain school. It may be your dream school, but they may not be dreaming on you, or they may no longer have the ability to dream on you. And I think that is an important distinction to begin to make for parents. College athletics are officially a different animal as of this settlement, because when you start to talk about all these caps, football, for instance, 140 rosters, now down to 105. Just think about that as far as volume of numbers. Think about the income revenue generating sports, i.e. football, basketball, a little bit of hockey, depends on what part of the country you're from, little bit of baseball, again, depends upon what part of the country you're from. But for the vast majority of other sports, or as they're referred to by athletic directors, Olympic sports, they're now going to have a budget, an athletic budget, and at least 22% of that is going to be paid back to the athletes. So you have to start to think about, these schools are doing a business evaluation, and they're trying to figure out, from a Title IX perspective, an affordability, a feasibility, and that is going to play a significant role across all of NCAA athletics. And you're going to say, well, Division II and Division III, they don't pay their athletes. Some Division I schools aren't going to pay their athletes, but it's still going to have a massive effect all through the NCAA as well as the NAIA, because the athletes now are going to be moving more aggressively. They've been given the get out of jail free card, so to speak, to be able to go into the portal or transfer, at any place, at any time. Not a lot of restrictions, at least not as of today. I know some of you have blown my direct messages up with the Nick Saban and the President Trump, and I'm not going down the political rabbit hole, but there'll be some people that are looking for firmer regulations when this whole thing starts to be, dots on the I's and crosses on the T's. As far as your question, Jason, and I want to address this, and I'm going to go a little bit longer, and I apologize because I'm getting a lot of questions and I appreciate them. Trading athletic ability for academics. Now, I get it. A lot of parents will come back at me. The last thing the world needs is another sports management major, another business management major. I get it. I understand. Some of you don't think college is worth it. I get it. But when we're talking college and athletics, you have to be a really, and I mean this with every fiber of my being, you have to be a really diligent athlete to play collegiately at any level. I don't know if you've watched any of these rosters. Johnson University, where Coach Serrano won over 30 plus games. That program used to routinely win maybe 4 or 5. Now they're getting players from California and Florida and Texas and New England and to go to Knoxville, Tennessee. Many of you didn't even know Johnson University was in Knoxville in the Appalachian League. The Cumberlands in Kentucky, Coach Shelton, he gets players from all over the country, and he gets dudes. He's got 2 dudes that are going to get drafted this year. And I bet you the vast majority of parents, when I say the College of the Cumberlands, what? Who? And Brad Shelton's been coaching for over 30 years. And he's got a catcher that is a straight-up dude, and he's got a left-handed pitcher from Australia. All of this to say to you as parents and athletes, what you don't realize is that there is a steady stream of foreign students that are coming into the country to get educated and to play sports. Asian countries, of which Australia is one, and then you have Latin countries. And so there is a finite number of chairs that are available for this game of musical chairs with regard to college recruiting. It is not in any way, shape, or form just, hey, I feel like going to this school. I'm a good baseball player. I'm better than Jimmy. I'm better than their shortstop. You are in for a rude awakening in the fall when you put your cleats on and go out there, because college athletics is a fiercely competitive internal struggle, let alone when you're playing in opposition. But trading athletic ability for academic excellence should be your number one. That should be first and foremost on your mind. Particularly, I have a young man that is getting into Amherst, and he is from Iowa, and he did the postgraduate route, and he had a pre-read coming out of Iowa with a very, very strong high school transcript. And he was injured for basically the last 2 years of his high school career. But this year, as a postgraduate, he's absolutely sensational. And he's getting into Amherst, which is a NESCAT Division III school, extremely difficult to get into, but he got in because of his ability to pitch. And he went to a Princeton camp, and the Amherst coach, J.P. Pine, was made aware of it and saw some video. And my point is, trading athletic ability for academic excellence, you can't lose. You cannot lose, because in the end, 99.5% 3%, that's a fact, are not going to play professional baseball. College athletes in today's world are at a tremendous disadvantage when it comes to being a draft pick by Major League Baseball. That's just a fact. So I want you to know that. So the next thing I want you to understand is when we are going about this, your communications with college coaching staffs play a critical, I can't emphasize this enough. Your communication skills with college coaches play a major role on whether they are going to aggressively recruit you, really want to recruit you. Mom and dad, I get it. I am one of those parents. I promise you. In the very beginning, I was the one interacting with college coaches, and a very good friend of mine, who I'm still very close with to this day, said, Dad, you're not the one that's going to play here. You're not the one that's going to be in my locker room. He is. So we want to hear from him. So I'm in turn sharing with you, mom and dad, you need to go through dry interviews. I do this all the time with athletes that I'm working with, or families that Mom, Dad, you go in the other room. I'm going to talk with, Josh and I are going to talk. And I tell Josh, hey, listen, I'm going to be the college baseball coach. I know what they're going to ask. And I want you to really understand why they're asking these questions. For instance, one of the first questions that a student athlete will be asked is, what makes this school a fit for you as a prospective student athlete? Now, they're not asking you because you have a pop time of 185. They want to know, well, from an academic perspective, I am looking to be in the engineering field, and I have researched and I've discovered that your engineering program is one of the top 20 in the country, and I feel that my transcript fits within your academic requirements, and your geographic location would allow me to commute, whether I take a train or a plane. In other words, you've given this some thought. This is not just you think our baseball team is really good and you're a stud athlete. Like, you've given this some thought. You really want to understand the video of your children playing the game, hitting, throwing, pitching, all of that good stuff. There's more to it. There's a bigger deal. Exposure versus exposed. Can you articulate your feelings, your thoughts, your wants, your needs, your desires? Can you handle the ups and the downs? Are you independently thinking, or is this something that somebody has told you will be a good fit? Or do you know in your heart that we will be a good fit for you for 4 or 5 years? A lot of coaches want to know what your priorities are. I had a young man that, called me after a recent visit, and I said, well, what were the first 2 questions that you were asked? And he said, well, the first one was, what position I felt I was going to be playing. And I told him I wanted number 11, and I thought I was better than this person. And then, boom, I knew that thing had gone sour. So by the time I called the college coach, in other words, coaches know that you're probably a pretty good athlete, but they want to know, how are you going to help my team win? I'm versatile. I can play infield. I can play any position. I feel that my ball strike capabilities, I have good strike zone awareness. These are things that you need to begin to understand that are a priority to college coaches, and not just the head coach. I had a young man that wanted to go to a school really, really bad, and he's a pitcher. And the recruiting coordinator called, and the young man didn't even know who the pitching coach was, didn't know the pitching coach's name. That's a big You're not doing your homework on that school. Let's see. Anthony, if I'm not mistaken, looks like Judge wants NCAA rosters to be bigger, correct? If this goes to trial, lawsuit could take years to be settled. Okay, and then you have Catcher from Fort Worth, Texas. Are you saying that all JUCO sophomores will have 3 more years to play college? All 4-year guys will get 1 more year. I'm going to start with the last question first. The NAIA and the NCAA are strongly leaning towards 5 years of eligibility. I want to go back to the Pavia case, the Vanderbilt quarterback. That doesn't mean if you did a couple of years at a JUCO, you're going to get another year back. That is still, a sticking point, but they are going to work aggressively to get to 5 years of eligibility. So yes, if you go to a JUCO and you play for 2 years, you will have 3 years of eligibility at a NAIA or a 4-year institution within the NCAA. That is coming. I believe strongly and firmly that every coach believes that is going to occur. Now, I want to talk to you about name, image, and likeness, because a lot of parents are getting stuck in this name, image, and likeness. First and foremost, name, image, and likeness comes from a collective, typically that is run by a booster club. And that booster club independently directs funds towards specific athletes that the coaches feel are adding value or have the ability to enhance the quality and caliber of the team. Have a young man that went to a school, got X amount of dollars as an incoming sophomore, is performing above and beyond, and now will get significantly more. But name, image, and likeness is going to be for the select few, not the everybody on the roster. That's going to be a big sticking point. And you can already see the free agency in basketball and football and in some cases hockey. But what you're not recognizing is the name, image, and likeness. While it seems like the bright lights, if you're a backup to the backup, you're not going to be, you can't walk in and say, I'm looking for name, image, and likeness money. Now, you as a student athlete can negotiate with anybody you want, pizza places, fast food, car dealerships, banks. I mean, you can go out there and you can, there's plenty of websites now that allow athletes to be on an NIL collective page and say, if you want to talk to Walter Beede, it's $40 for the hour. You can definitely make money as a college student athlete at the the NCAA Division I level. That is a really heavily discussed point, but it's not going to be the same. You can't get 300,000 if you're the backup third string catcher. So understand that they now, from your perspective as a 2025 or 2026 recruit, high school recruit, everything now is a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheets used to be limited to roster scholarship allocation 11.7 over 27 athletes. Now, 34-man rosters. You can scholarship up to 34 if you're a school that chooses to do so. You can pay athletes out of your athletic budget. Division I athletes can be compensated, but bear in mind, those that are generating the most revenue, i.e. football and basketball, are going to get the vast majority of that 20 some odd $1 million every year to be distributed across all athletes. Now, one of the questions that has come in, and I'm going to make sure I got to everybody here, and I really want to say thank you to everybody that's taking the time to send in the questions. I want to make sure that, and Nick Mallard, I really want to say thank you for putting my high school picture up there. Thank you very much, Nick. I have a question that came in from a parent about NCAA Division III. So I want to make sure that parents understand this. It used to be that NCAA Division III was like the runt of the litter. Everybody kind of kicked Division III to the curb. Having been a former Division III at arguably one of the lowest ranked, or, if there were 300, and I'm giving you a hypothetical number, 300 NCAA Division III programs, really 400, we would have been ranked number 400. But from my teams, I had over 5 players that were drafted and played professionally. So I want you to understand Division III athletics are no longer even remotely close to what they used to look like 20 some odd years ago. In today's world, I can tell you they play a significant role with Division I baseball, with the draft. Elite athletes are going to Division III. Last year, I know it was last year, University of Texas had let a couple of boys go, and they ended up going to Washington and Lee. And Washington and Lee is a really strong academic school in the greater Virginia area, really elite alumni base. But I can tell you that these athletes now that are going into Division III, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, and they are matriculating. They are finding their ways to Division schools. In some cases, Ivy League schools. In some cases, the UVAs or the Dukes or the Vanderbilts, et cetera, those schools that have a significant academic centric major, whether that's medical, whether that's criminal justice with regard to pre-law, pre-med, engineering, things like that. And I can tell you that these schools academically are really, really challenging to get into. I cannot emphasize enough, if you take the time to go through, Google or any of your periodicals, and you look at schools like Babson, Tufts, Bates, Bowdoin, Amherst, Ohio Wesleyan, Hamilton, Emory, John Hopkins. I could rattle off a whole bunch of schools, Salisbury, Salve Regina, the Coast Guard Academy. These schools really offer elite academic opportunities, and their admission rates are really, really challenging. And so if you can trade athletic ability and get into these schools and really begin your college career, I can tell you that's going to be the wave of the future. I really believe strongly in that. Starting pitcher at MIT, Robert, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And Liam, I'm just, this is in the chat for those of you that want to verify. I get accused of embellishing. So Liam Davis, Liam, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. JP is a very good friend of mine, and there's probably not a lot of better baseball people, not a lot of better human beings than JP Pine at Amherst. And their weekend starters were up to 96 this year. And they get MLB teams that routinely, in fact, Ray Fagnant, who's a very prominent scout with the Boston Red Sox, sent his son to Amherst, and I believe is now transferred to James Madison for a fifth year at graduate school. And Robert Dressler also just sent me starting pitcher at MIT is up to 96, 97. So while we as a group or an industry are trying to preach SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Big Ten, oh, by the way, Division II schools, Tampa, Florida Southern, Southern New Hampshire, Nova Southeastern, they have guys that are pitching that are 93, 97. Division III schools, MIT, Amherst, that are elite academic schools, they have guys throwing 96, 97. They have hitters that routinely play in the Cape Cod League, which one could make an argument is one of the most prestigious college summer leagues in the country. And you have to really have an MLB scout that can vouch for your player's ability. All of this to tell you, I don't see a lawsuit, an extended lawsuit. I see a settlement coming as we get closer to the end of the calendar school year of the end of May, early June. I think the College World Series, I think, will have a finite resolution. I think that we will have some sort of grandfathering into these roster cuts. In baseball, that's going to affect 3,000 to 5,000 athletes, depending upon how many numbers. And also, parents need to be keenly aware, and I want to stress this. This is kind of bullet point 3A. You can expect at the Division III, Division II, maybe at the NAIA level, but definitely at the JUCO level. So NCAA Divisions 2 and 3, JUCO, NJCAA's Division 1, 2, and 3, and NAIA Division 1 and 2. You can expect rosters to also include developmental teams or developmental programs, JV teams, whatever we want to call them. That is going to be part of your ladder that you are going to have to climb through and compete against. So the whole point of these Tuesdays discussions, and the same is going to ring true, by the way, for softball. I just talked at length with Kevin Griffin, and he is an NCAA Division III softball coach in Mississippi. And I encourage you as parents, if you are softball athletes, follow Sherry Nadine at College Sports Advocate, also Kevin Griffin. But Kevin does a lot of his recruiting through JUCOs in Alabama and Georgia and Louisiana, and he's bringing older athletes in to the NCAA Division III softball. So if you think that's going on just in baseball, this is going to go on, softball, lacrosse, because there's not a lot of room at the inn for the younger, less skilled athletes. And when I say less skilled, I'm not saying that your high school senior or junior doesn't have the future, but they're not as mature. They're not as what I call time management orientated. They don't have that college student routine down yet. And once they prove that they can, once they prove that they're able to handle the rigors of traveling, NCAA Division III sports, a lot of bus rides. You're not flying. All college athletics, for the most part, take buses. Some better buses. Vanderbilt takes these really elite sleeper buses. Becker College used to just take the old conventional Greyhound bus, and we'd go 6 hours up to Maine. And you have to be able to, you have a cold, you don't feel up to snuff. You just had a big final. You were up the night before, and now you got to go get on a bus, eat lunch on the run, get on the bus, travel 6 hours, get off, stretch, unwind, and get ready to play a doubleheader or, a 3-game weekend series. There's a lot to this college athletic process, which is what we need more discussion about. Like, what is the life of a college athlete really like? Ray Fagnan's son is now playing in the Washington. Okay, great. Liam, you are correct. Did I believe Liam? He transferred or was planning on transferring to James Madison. But I know that Ray Fagnan's son did leave Amherst, go to a Division I school, and now he's playing minor league ball. But there's a major league scout who was a Division II NCAA athlete at Assumption, and then signed with the Red Sox, became a scout. He's been a scout for over 25, 30 years. And now his son took the advice and traded athletic ability for academic excellence, went to Amherst, which, oh, by the way, is the proud, they have, I think, 7 alums from Amherst that are major league general managers or have been major league general managers. Dan Duquette was one, Jim Duquette. William and Mary, thank you. William and Mary, not James Madison. Liam, thank you very much. Rob McCoy, who was formerly at Niagara and now is at William and Mary. These are great academic schools. Great academic schools. So the question for you as parents and student athletes, to wrap up, as Coach Tyner from Townsend University would always love for me to say, because this is his favorite saying, do you want to be a guy or do you want to be the guy? And sometimes being the guy means that you have to kind of, okay, where do I fit? What's the right fit? What level is going to allow me to come in and get my feet wet and learn? Who's going to be the best fit for me from an academic, from a social environment, from a campus environment, obviously from an athletic environment. And then I make a decision predicated on that. Not what team is ranked higher, what team is in what conference, how much money are their guys getting, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, the decision, I believe, will come this summer. It's in nobody's interest to keep putting the settlement further off or go to some sort of a jury hearing. That would be ridiculous, and it would be time consuming, and nobody wants that. They want to end this. They want to move forward. The NCAA really doesn't want to grandfather the athletes in. The judge does. I kind of think the judge is going to win in some way, shape, or form. Parents of freshmen and sophomores, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade this year, you're a 29, a 28, or 27, and you're on deck. I'd really be focusing on my transcript. Make sure your transcript is good. Doesn't need to be elite, doesn't need to be great, but you need to really focus on, that grade as a freshman in high school is going to matter when you're a senior, no way around it. So at least be mindful of your transcript. Next, your foot speed, your athleticism, your versatility, your strength, it's all going to matter. Don't put it off until you're a junior and try to catch up. Can't say it enough. You're not competing against your peer group. You're competing against people that are either already in college or about to be in college. And they're going to be 5 years of college, and you have 3 or 4 years of high school. So figure that out. And next, families have to be more communicative and more proactive with regard to prospective universities and colleges and really begin to be aggressively proactive with regard to your communication. Know what schools you want to kind of consider. Know what levels they play at. Know what majors they have. Know what their coaching, who their coaching staff is. Also, coaching carousel is about to change. Can't stress this enough. Those assistant coaches who you blew off and you didn't return their calls, all of a sudden they get on somebody's staff and a D3 coach becomes a D1 recruiting coordinator, D1 recruiting coordinator at a mid-major like East Tennessee State, and now suddenly they're at Mississippi State. There's a lot of changes that take place at the end of May going into June. So you have to be mindful of the coaching staffs. They're being put together during the months of June and July. You have to know what coaches are coming and going. You have to know what programs, how are they recruiting. That's where Pro Baseball Radar. I don't know if any of you have that app yet. It's on the Baseball Blue Book app, and it's a wonderful tool for parents to utilize. And that's why I'm tagging them. You know, I do a lot of tagging of ProLine. I do a lot of tagging of Pro Radar because, you know, I am part of the baseball and softball blue book, and we are looking to bring on those types of companies or programs or apps that are going to allow parents and athletes to do more efficient, getting into the metrics of the school. And at Pro Radar, you see where the freshmen are playing, who's playing more freshmen, who's bringing in more JUCO students, who's bringing in more, transfer portal guys. That's a really valuable tool. And I really encourage parents, create that baseball blue book profile, the softball blue book profile, put the names in there, join and let me know. Let's see that video. But you can go in and you can get into the Pro Radar and you can say, I'm looking into Appalachian State. I'm looking into Wheaton University. I'm looking into Ohio Wesleyan. And you'll find out the conference they play in, how their roster is currently constituted. Are they, senior dominant? Are they underclassmen heavy? You'll be able to get all of that information to make a informed decision as a family. And the one last one, this is 3B. And parents, I went a little long tonight, and I apologize. I want to know new turnover percentages for 2025 and 2026 coming tonight. Rob is telling me tonight. So I want you to know that Pro Radar, as of tonight, is getting a massive update for the 2025, 2026. Rob, thank you for telling me that. Again, wonderful tool, tremendous tool. But parents, let's talk about affordability. Affordability should be an absolute key. Schools in the Northeast or the bigger academic schools, sometimes they can be a little pricey. Schools that are private in nature, sometimes they can be a little pricey. Why JUCO? And that's why some of the NAIA offers probably the most affordable opportunities for athletes that have a little bit of academic acumen, because like for instance, the College of the Cumberlands, I think the max you can pay there is like $6,000 or $8,000 per year when you add all of the awards and the scholarships. So really, when I'm working with families, I really try to stress right out of the gate, okay, let's work on the affordability. Where do we need to be? Because if you're going to tell me we're going to be working with, for a 4-year budget of $20,000 a year, $10,000 a year, but we're looking at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and those schools are not giving out the big full scholarships. Okay, well, we don't want to burden athletes. We want to try to trade the athletics for the academics to make it an affordable, enjoyable, productive, really valuable 4 or 5 year experience. And I really emphasize that with parents. For those parents that are so inclined, we will be talking to Sherry this week. I always talk with Sherry on Thursdays. For those of you that don't know Sherry, she's collegiate sports advocates, really does a tremendous job with women's sports, lacrosse, soccer, softball, really heavy with the softball. I really want to encourage you, create that Blue Book profile, get access to that Pro Radar app, come be a part of the dugout. where I interact with the kids after their games. I break down their videos, and we chat about what I think they could do a little better, or what I would like to see them do a little bit more of. And I think that adds value and some content. I encourage you, if you have a athlete, or you have college recruiting, and you really want to begin to prepare your 12 to 15-year-old student for high school, you have a high school athlete that you really want to prepare for college, $20 a month for a membership. Can't say it enough. You're going to get courses. You're going to get contact. You're going to get access. Just did a great discussion with Eric Cressy that I'm putting out. Those are the types of things that I want to begin to share. Doing a big interview with Dr. Meister with regard to Tommy John surgery. I had a lot of athletes this year. That's going to be the topic of my discussion for next week, Tommy John. It's not just for pitchers anymore, and I want to discuss that next week. So please, on your way out, if you can do 3 things. 1, hit the thumbs up. Just engage with the video. I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the questions, but it helps promote the YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing. That is free. Subscribing just gives you the notification when I put content out there, when you can see me online. So both that is free. The thumbs up is free. And then please strongly consider a membership and spread the word. Please spread the word. I am creating a Coach Beede BP jacket and a Coach Beede visor that we're going to have with the blue book on the side, and that's going to come with your membership. So these are the things that are coming. I'm happy to help parents. I'm happy to help the coaches. I appreciate your time. This is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I look forward to talking with you next week, and tune in this Thursday. Going to be talking with Coast Guard Brian Casey. Going to be talking Division III, NCAA Division III, and the Coast Guard Academy, and what they look for in student athletes. Have a great week in baseball.